All right, my friends, the brand new Nokia Lumia 930. This is going to be an honest review of this new flagship device from Nokia. So stay tuned for a fanboy-free look at this fancy new Windows 8.1 phone from Nokia. Start off talking a little bit about specs, even though I don't really care for specs very much because specs don't affect user experience. The combination of hardware, software, and specs affect user experience, and I say that in all my videos. So we'll just talk about the specs that this phone includes. It's a 5-inch 1080p display, 16 million colors. It's AMOLED, and it is brilliant. They have done a fantastic job with this screen. I mean, it is stunning to look at. Very, very sharp, very contrasty, excellent color. One of the nicest displays I've seen in a really long time. I'm a real big fan of HTC's displays, and I think that this phone is very close, if not better, than anything I've seen with HTC to date in their Android phones. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor. It's clocked at 2.2 gigahertz, Adreno 330 GPU, 2 gigs of RAM, and 32 gigs of memory inside. Standard LTE bands depending on your country, GSM, UMTS, all that sort of thing, HSDPA. The other really nice spec about this phone is the 20 megapixel Zeiss camera in the back with a dual LED flash. We'll talk more about the quality of the camera here later in the review, but otherwise, spec-wise, it's a cell phone. It has a built-in FM radio, video camera obviously in here as well, applications that run on the Windows 8.1 platform, and similar to every other phone that you've seen on the market pretty much, we've got a USB port down here, plastic construction in the back, but actually really nice plastic. Different than the sort of creaky thin Galaxy plastic you've seen on Samsung Galaxy phones. Very nicely refined aluminum trim here on the sides. We have a dedicated camera button here, power button here, volume rocker here. Really nice attention to detail on this phone. Very Apple-esque, I would say, but not even necessarily Apple-esque, Nokia-esque. Nokia is an excellent hardware manufacturer. I've always been inspired by Nokia designs, and I think that they do a really brilliant job with their phones. One other point of interest that you might like is that this SIM tray is the best thing I've seen yet with this SIM card stuff. This is a nano SIM, so it's the smallest of the small to date in 2014. And the greatest thing about it is that you actually don't even need tools to remove it. It has a little hole right there, which if you're lucky you can just sort of stick your fingernail in. My nails aren't that long, but there you go. In and out, no tools needed. Excellent design. Oh, we've got Cortana here running. Anyway, so that's a look at the hardware and sort of the overall look and feel of the device. And we're going to jump into the software here and what makes this a great phone and what makes it not so great of a phone here next. So when I think Windows Phone, I tend to have a love-hate relationship, or maybe just a questionable relationship with my experience with Windows phones to date. I've tried every version of Windows Phone, even dating back to before it was called Windows Phone with Windows Mobile. And it's been a frustrating experience from the get-go. And unfortunately, I have to report that it's about the same with this new Lumia 930 running Windows 8.1. I'll get into the details towards the end of the review of why I consider it sort of frustrating, but from an overall standpoint, okay, when we look at Windows 8.1 on this phone compared to some of the other older versions of Windows Phone, or even compared to Android or iOS, I like to look at what is out there. And so when I say that, what I'm talking about is what you can get by owning a top-of-the-line Android device and what you can get by owning a top-of-the-line Apple device and what you can get by owning a top-of-the-line Windows device. And so when you're thinking about spending your money, you have to consider all three of these options, right? If you're a die-hard Windows fan and you've been using Windows Phone forever, then this review might seem a little biased to you, but that's not the case, because it's not biased when you consider all the available options, okay? You have to consider, you have to take into part Android's effect on the market as well as Apple's effect on the market when you're considering buying a phone. If you are coming from an older version of this phone, like, I don't know, say a Lumia 900 or an older version of Windows Phone, you might really find that this phone is great. But if you're an Android user and you're thinking about switching, or if you're an Apple user and you're thinking about switching, you definitely have to take what I'm going to say in this video to heart, because there's a lot of criticisms and a lot of reasons why you may not actually like this phone in this review. And so, like I said, you have to consider all these things. It's not bias, it's just available market, and it's my opinion based on using all three of these devices and how they all compare to each other. Size-wise, in your hand, when you consider this is a 5-inch phone, it is rather large. It's not as big as that ridiculous Lumia whatever 600 series, I think it is, or it's 6-inch phone, I don't know, but it's ridiculous. This fits nicely. I think it's still a little bit too big. I can't reach everything on here. You compare it to a 5-inch Nexus 5, you do see that it's a little bit taller, and I do actually think it is a little bit wider as well. Yep, just a hair. So 5 inches on the Lumia 930, just a bit bigger than that, and you throw in the teeny tiny iPhone 5S here for comparison. iPhone definitely fits in my hand the nicest. You know, I got a little bit extra room there, and you know the Nexus 5 fits in my hand nicer probably than the Lumia 930, but this definitely feels cheaper. I mean, this plastic on the back, you know, they're close. In fact, they probably feel exactly the same. But the fact that, you know, this Nokia adds this awesome aluminum bezel, Gorilla Glass 3, and you know, a little bit heftier feel to it with an inlaid camera. It doesn't stick out like it does in the Nexus. Just gives it a more premium feel. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like the plastic on the Nexus. I like the fit and the finish of this too, but this just takes it one step further. I mean, Nokia are excellent designers. They are definitely the Apple of the non-Apple smartphone category. I mean, they do a really, 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 really great job with all of their phones. They pay attention to detail, which I actually value a lot. And so I think that, you know, size in hand, maybe a little bit too big for the average user, or certainly for my size hands, but the brightness of the screen, the build quality, the way the fit and finish of the phone really makes up for it, in my opinion. So jumping right into the software, Windows Phone 8.1 is a gorgeous OS. I think that I am very, very pleased with the upgrade that they've done. It doesn't feel a whole lot different than Windows Phone 8, but the look and feel has changed some. The speed has definitely increased. They've done a nice job with the upgrade. I think now that you've got 3 tiles here, you can fit more information on your home screen. There's no wasted space. There used to be 2, now you have 3. You can still resize objects. It doesn't get, they don't get as big or as, I mean, I suppose they do get 2 wide, so that's as wide as they got in the previous version, but you can't make them 3 wide. You still can't really add widgets to the OS, which is, I don't know, that's okay, but you do get updates and feeds, you know, in here, in your home screen, which is nice. Like these live tiles update with current information. You can rearrange things, you can delete things, you can change this a fair bit. I think that this is a really nice home screen idea. I think that, you know, the fact that they've added 3 rows makes it a little more useful. It's a little old, you know, in the sense where you can't really change the look and the feel too much, but it's okay. I like it. Getting into the actual list of apps, you still swipe over. The navigation is the same. Holding the back button to look at your recent apps, that's the same. Now that we have Cortana with our search, you know, that's a little bit different. So that's actually nice to use. We'll get into a demo of Cortana here in a minute. But the phone is fast. Applications load quickly. There's no lag. The keyboard is just as good as it's always been. Actually, the Windows Phone keyboard, I think, is probably one of the nicest keyboards out there in terms of its consistency, its speed, how fast it is. Like, I really like typing on this. You know, there's now swipe included in here, or whatever you want to call it. You can slide to type. But it is a very, very nice device to type on, to use. Extremely quick. Like I said, you'll never see any hint of lag in probably any Windows Phone ever, but especially this new 930 from Nokia. This is the 3 voice recognition softwares on each of these respective devices. And we have Siri on the iPhone, which has been out for a while. We have Cortana on Windows Phone 8.1, which is brand new. And we have the Google Now, I guess, or Google doesn't give its voice a name, but Google Now. Anyway, all 3 of these are voice recognition. They all do sort of slightly different things, but we'll ask it some simple questions and compare the 3 of these, right? So here we go. Set a reminder to go to the dentist at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
All right.
Here's your reminder
I
for
can
tomorrow.
remind you for tomorrow. Dentist at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Shall I create it?
Sound good?
Yes, create, yes. Jeez.
Do you want to set this
I'll
reminder?
remind you.
Say yes,
I'll remind
no,
you.
or cancel.
So,
You can see it in the notebook anytime.
yes. Anyway,
Set this
they
reminder.
all worked pretty well. They all reminded me. They're all going to set it. Okay, so that was pretty successful. Google's still trying to listen. That was a pretty successful test of each of these is going to create a reminder for me. So that was great. We'll ask it something a little bit more complex. Find me a good Chinese restaurant.
Here I found 6 Chinese restaurants fairly close
that
to you.
have good
I've sorted
reviews.
them by rating.
So the only ones that really incorporated ratings, okay, are these two. And so both of these guys use GPS to sort of evaluate where I am, and then so the iPhone has ranked them by order, and then also Cortana has also said good reviews near you. So, and Google didn't do that. Google just sort of picked whatever's closest. So you can see the differences in those two. We'll do one more test here of all three of these. Show me a map of Berlin.
Here's a map of Berlin.
Here's a map of Berlin.
And again, all three of those, about the same results, about the same speed. Google's a little bit faster on that one. But, again, Cortana has caught up, or I should say Windows Phone has caught up to the competitors with Cortana, and it works really well. It's actually super fast, and it's really convenient. I actually really like it quite a bit. All right, so let's talk about the pure awesomeness that is this 20 megapixel Zeiss PureView camera. Dual LED flash. This guy, not only is there a dedicated button, but it's fast. This camera is fantastic. I like the fact that you can half press to focus, right? It'll use the LED flash to illuminate even if you choose not to take pictures with the flash. It has a bunch of different camera modes in here. We've got like a live smart sequence, and it's a little bit gimmicky. It's not terrible. It's not like a Samsung phone with all the stupid features that no one uses. But the camera is fast, and the picture quality is fantastic. I mean, I've taken a couple sample shots here of indoors and outdoors. And I don't know if you guys can see these. But the quality is just incredible. I mean, this is a little bit blurry just from moving my hand around, and it's sort of dimly lit in here. But let's go back to some of these other shots I've taken outdoors and indoors. Just superb. I am super impressed with the sharpness, the resolution, the out of focus areas, the noise control, the JPEG, lack of JPEG artifacts. Just outstanding. Typical of Nokia image quality. Great color saturation, great exposure, great white balance. Just Nokia knows what it's doing with its smartphones and the cameras that are inside them. I really, really, really love this camera. I would carry this around as a primary camera if I didn't have, a DSLR or some other camera that I use for photography. I mean, the fact that you can get pictures that are this good out of a phone is just fantastic. And a lot of people like the iPhone for its image quality as well, and I think that the iPhone is going to be probably this phone's biggest competitor. The Nexus does take good photos as well, it's no slouch, but the iPhone definitely beats the Nexus in low light, and I would love to put these two to the test and see which one actually looks better in low light. I'm thinking it might actually be the Nokia. The quality is just really, really stunning. Alright, now let's talk the biggest weakness of this phone, and that is, unfortunately, Windows Phone 8.1. And I'm going to tell you guys a little story. Back in the day, when only things like iPhones existed for the mass market, and we're talking circa 2008, 2009, the iPhone 3, in the era of sort of the iPhone 3G, 3GS, kind of that sort of area. Basically, when Android was in its infancy, I refused, essentially, to use an iPhone because Android offered so much more features and so much more openness in terms of what you could do on the device, like customization, with the software and the hardware choices, even though it was in its infancy compared to the iPhone. And I was a huge proponent of running Android over the iPhone just because of how you could change things and how it let you use the phone differently than Apple's locked-in ecosystems. And so what I'm trying to get at with that is that the Windows Phone is still lacking a lot of those features. It's still maybe it's in its infancy, but it's not. I mean, the thing is it's been around for a while, but we still have issues with application support. We still have issues with features that are missing, customizations, that sort of thing. a real deal breaker, as an example, for this phone for me, is two core applications. One is Google Voice, and the second one is Runkeeper. And so when I say that, you know, I have examples of Google Voice. Google Voice works flawlessly on both my iPhone and my Android, okay? And so the problem isn't with Google, the problem is with Windows Phone. And Runkeeper, I use Runkeeper every day to log my workouts, and it's not available on Windows Phone. And I'm not going to switch. I'm not going to change my applications that I've been using forever. You know, I'm not going to start paying for text messages now because it's not supported on Windows Phone anymore with Google Voice. I'm not going to change my default running app because I've got all my data stored in Runkeeper. I use it every day. You know, it's just a really, really big inconvenience. It's a huge hassle and a pain in the butt that Windows Phone doesn't offer all the apps that Android does and Apple does. And so that's my point, is that I stuck with Android because I knew it was better software. And I mean, that's arguable. That's, you know, that's just my opinion that it's quote unquote better, but it's fact that Android definitely does have more customization and more user features over iPhone. I think Windows Phone actually has a better user interface, and I actually prefer the UI of Windows Phone more than either of these two. But it's crippled. I mean, literally crippled by the fact that it's missing these core. Not when I say core, I just mean the diversity of applications. Like, if you're coming from one of these other two platforms and you jump ship and go to Windows Phone, you're gonna be disappointed with the application selection. I'm sorry, but you just are. There's no way around it. It doesn't have the application selection and the application polish that Android does or that Apple does. So where does that leave us in terms of this Nokia Lumia 930 and my overall thoughts? You know, it's a great phone. The hardware is just beautiful. Nokia really, really knows what it's doing in terms of hardware design. They've really made a really, I think, superb phone here. I fell in love with the Lumia starting with the 900. Similar plastic construction, but really, really nicely accented with this aluminum trim. 5 inches feels great in your hands. Gorilla Glass 3 screen. Big, bright, beautiful display. Nokia wins the award, I think, for phone design. Unfortunately, it's lacking a usable OS, in my opinion. I think that Windows Phone 8.1 still has some serious growing to do. I think that the lack of applications is really going to be a big deal for people if they're coming from Android or if they're coming from iOS. If people are thoroughly happy with what they've got with Windows Phone already, they'll probably really enjoy this phone. For me, as a diehard Android user, I look at this phone as it's sitting on my desk, and I'm drawn towards it. I really like that. I love the hardware. I'm drawn to using this phone because the camera's so good, and because it fits great in my hand, and it's just a pleasure to look at and to hold on to. I mean, it's wonderful. But as soon as I start using Windows Phone, I'm completely and utterly disappointed. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And I think that for my hard-earned money, you know, $650 for this device, it really, really doesn't compare to my trusty Nexus at $350. You know, similar plastic construction, similar vibrant colors. We've got a red and a green here. Very, very close. You know, granted, the Lumia has a lot higher camera, has a lot better camera. You know, better specs in here, but you know, overall, I just can't justify Windows Phone on a $650 device when I can't get as much out of it as I can with my Nexus or as I can with my iPhone. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out everything else I have on YouTube, and rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.